Welcome to Ham Radio Remote Operation. This was a presentation to the Minnesota Amateur Radio Technical Society in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The presentation was by Gary Meyer, yours truly, WODYD, on October 3rd, 2015. If you are not familiar with ham radio or remote control operation, you might ask this question: well, what does it do? Well, remote control allows you to control your home station from any remote location where you have an internet connection or telephone connection, depending upon which method you might use, and we will discuss those methods. Another question you might have is this: why do I want to control my ham radio station from a remote location? Well, I might be away on vacation or business and want to make some contacts by ham radio, and this allows me to do that using several of the different modes, including single sideband, Morse code, or any of the digital modes that are available to ham radio operators. You also might be in a location that does not allow antennas, maybe condominiums or townhomes, and yet you have another location where you could set up a station. What remote control would do would be to allow you to control that station and still have contacts from your condominium or townhome. It also might provide an opportunity for another ham to use your station. Perhaps they don't have a station yet, or maybe they want to have a little more power or a little more capability than what they have in their own station, and this will provide that opportunity for them. So what is required in order to set up a remote control operation? It can be very simple to the more complex installations depending upon your ham radio station. It gives you the control of the rig, setting of the frequencies, controlling levels of audio, or controlling different operations on the rig itself, setting bandwidths and so forth. It also allows you to control the logging, so as you make a contact and you want to log that information, you can do it from the remote location. Many of these systems are set up to automatically log in the stations and pull that information from the internet as far as another call, another name, and so forth. Also, it allows you to do digital communications via software installed at the home location. In some instances where a ham radio operator may have several antennas, it allows them to switch between different antennas. If you have a beam Yagi type of antenna, it allows you to rotate that in the direction of the station that you're communicating with. And then also it might allow you to do satellite tracking, so the software determines where satellites are for satellite communication and points the antenna in that particular direction. There are three common methods to remotely control your ham radio station. One is what I call the black box to black box method via the internet. There's another black box to black box that you can purchase and operate over telephone lines with no internet connection. And then the third method, probably the most popular one, is that of computer-to-computer applications, where you have some software on both ends, both at the home station and also at your remote location, that talk to each other. In my case, I'm using Kenwood control software, and each vendor, such as ICOM or Yaesu, also have their own control software for their specific rigs. Another program that I use is called HRD, Ham Radio Deluxe, Remote Server software, which allows the two computers to talk to each other. And then there's also a third-party method of doing that, using a remote server, remote desktop server, and the one that I use is called Real VNC. And there are several VNC programs you can download for free on the internet, put them on your computer, and then be able to control the desktop of your home computer from the remote location. The first method I mentioned, the black box to black box method via the internet. Here's an example. You can purchase a couple of black boxes here and just plug and play. You plug your remote rig into this 1258 MK2S set, and then you connect that black box right into an internet connection, and you're able to control the remote rig from the remote location. So we have a black box on the other end connected to your remote computer. Here the pricing, typically around the $500 mark for this type of operation. The second black box to black box operation can be done over the telephone line with no internet connection. There's a vendor who makes this product called Remote Ham Shack, and the price is about $500 to $600. You can see from the lower right-hand picture there that it's connected into the telco link or your telephone system. There's also a plug there then that goes into your radio and a control port, serial port, along with a speaker and an auxiliary connection as well. So here you do not need an internet connection, but again your price tag is up around the $500 to $600 and even more depending if you want to control antennas, switching, and do some of the other neat stuff that can be done with this system, and it works very well. This presentation focuses on computer-to-computer applications. That is, we have a host computer controlling the station, and we also have our computer, which could be a laptop or tablet or cell phone, which is running a computer program and connected to the internet at the remote location. The method that I'm using at W0DYD is to use some Kenwood control software. This is free. It's provided by the vendor. If you have a Yaesu radio or an ICOM or any radio that can be remotely controlled, it offers usually some free control software right from the vendor, plus an additional host software, which is the VNC, and then a VNC desktop viewer, which is also free. So this is much more economical if you have the equipment already set up, and most ham shacks have a computer and some type of a remote device. Also, another method is to use the HRD host desktop with the VNC server plus a VNC client viewer. A third method is to use what's called the HRD or Ham Radio Deluxe remote server software on a host, plus running the HRD program locally right on the client at the remote location. Note that VNC is not required in this particular instance. The price for Ham Radio Deluxe runs you about $100 for version 6. It was free for version 5, and now there are quite a few enhancements and some things built into it that are very useful as far as remote operation is concerned. We will take a look at all three of these methods. The first application that I would like to take a look at is using the Kenwood control software plus the VNC desktop viewer. In order to make this work, you need a radio that can be remotely controlled. I have the Kenwood TS590S, which has a built-in USB interface, which enables the radio to be connected directly to the host computer via a USB cable. No further connections are required. The host computer itself I'm running is a Dell Inspiron desktop with an internet connection, and then on that host computer I run server software, which is the real VNC server, which enables a remote station to connect directly to the host and view the desktop on the host computer. At the remote end, we need a remote computer such as a desktop, laptop, or tablet, or cell phone can be used, but it's a little more awkward because of the small display. The remote computer connection software is also running a VNC, a real VNC client software. This can be installed on any of the above listed remote computers, or it's also available for Apple computers. So at the remote site you could be running Apple, which has a real VNC client software installed on it. Here's a schematic of the system. I have my TS590S computer controlled via the USB cable, which connects directly to my Inspiron host computer. What I need to do there first is to install the VNC server and the ARCP590 software. The ARCP590 software is supplied by Kenwood. It's free from Kenwood, and it gives you a display of the a semi-display of the front panel with a lot of different options, which we will take a look at. To connect to the internet, then we have a Wi-Fi router, and that Wi-Fi router is connected to our Dell Inspiron host computer, and it's also connected to a modem. So in order to have the Dell computer communicate with the internet, we need to set up our Wi-Fi router here so that we open up certain ports, which enables then the computer to talk through the Wi-Fi router out to the modem and then out to the internet. On the client system, we have the VNC client software, and that's really all we need to install there, since we're going to remotely look at the desktop on the host system using this remote client, which is also connected to the internet with the ports set up correctly to access the open port on the Wi-Fi router. Here's what you need to set up the VNC system. On the host computer, we need to download and install the real VNC server. That's available at https://www.realvnc.com. There are some other VNC programs available, and if you have a preference, you can also use those to connect in from the remote location. Next, we need to configure the VNC server software on the host computer to specify the IP address that is assigned by the router. Whenever you start up a router, it assigns internal IP addresses, which start with 192.168, followed by either a .0 or .1, and then the local address for each place. So we need to also assign the port number that we want set up to access the VNC server, and then we need to assign a password. There's a lot of good websites about setting up VNC server on the host computer, which may be valuable to you. Thirdly, we configure the router to open the port number at whatever the above IP address is, and you can select whatever port number you want. Like for example, it's a 4-digit number, and in this case, we're just for example setting up 7000 as a port address. Next, we need to activate the VNC server on the host to run in the background, so that whenever you want to connect into it, the VNC server is running. And then fifth, we need to set up the computer firewall and any security software to allow VNC to run. So we need to allow the program itself to get through the firewall, as well as opening up the ports. At the remote location, we need to download and install the real VNC viewer. That's at the same web address. Then we must configure the software for the proper IP address and port number that were assigned on the host. And then we can log in to the host server. Once you log in, you're now in control of the host computer. The mouse control is there, as well as the keyboard control. So from this control software, you can start your transceiver, for example in HRD, from the remote client laptop. So you are running the host computer actually from your remote location. It's just as if you're sitting in front of that host computer. Once you log in from your client, you will get a window that looks something like this, where you assign the VNC server address, and in our case here, the 192.168.1.101 is the internal IP address of our host, and then whatever we set up as the selected port number on the host, we also enter in here after a couple of colons. Then clicking on the Connect button, we go to the next screen gives us a place to enter the password that we assigned in the host VNC server. So entering in this password and then clicking on OK, we should see another screen that shows that we are connected to the host computer. If you are not real familiar with IP addresses and ports, there is quite a few good resources for you to take a look at. One of those resources appears on the MinArts, that's the Minnesota Amateur Radio Technical Society, on YouTube, and you can find that by searching MNARTS, and then going to the archives of the presentations that have been made at club meetings, and look at the 2013 January 05 by Steve Ulrich. It's a good reference on the subject explaining how IP addresses work, as well as ports. Here's an example of what a router setup would look like. You have the application, which you can fill in a name. Also the starting and ending addresses. You can put in an individual address or a range of addresses, and then enter in whether you want TCP/IP or whether you want UDP. In some cases, if you don't know, you can put in both, and then you put in the internal IP address for that particular location, and then you can enable the ports. Now, if you just use this on occasion, you might want to enable the port over a period of time and then close the port off, which gives you a little more security on any hackers that might be looking for your port addresses and port or your IP addresses rather, and your ports that are open. So as long as they're on password, you do have a degree of security there. So you log in at the router IP, and you would do that with a internet connection or your internal connection to your local area network, and then sign in with whatever password and username that you have applied to setting up the Wi-Fi router. Once you have this, you can go to Save Settings, and after saving the settings, it should say Save Successfully, and you can go on and now know that the particular router has opened up a port at a particular address for you. As a point of information, when we talk about port forwarding, some internet service providers block ports. That's for security reasons, and a lot of the public networks that you might get on would not allow you to go back through their service provision and get back to your computer. So there is a method you can use to bypass that or get around it, And that is, if you have a cell phone that creates a hotspot or one of these smaller hotspot devices available from some of the phone companies, you can go through your Wi-Fi connection to your phone and then out to the internet. So you create a hotspot. In my particular case, I'm using Verizon, and they provide a service for the hotspot that you can go through that. However, you should be careful because you're now using up your data on your cell phone, and so if you use it a lot, it can rack up a lot of different amounts of data which you are going to be charged for. In the case of where you are using remote just around the house, maybe in another room or upstairs to downstairs, you should be going through your Wi-Fi, your own Wi-Fi router, which has the open ports on it, and then you should not run into any problem. So the method of creating your own hotspot is usually part of a cell phone service. So this opens up the possibility of remote mobile operation as well through a cell phone hotspot connection. So now we get around to using our first application here once we have all of our Wi-Fi routers and all of the host and client software installed. So we first connect to the host by our VNC desktop viewer software, and then we can start up any program and control any program on that host computer. So if we have the Kenwood control software installed, which is the ARCP 590 program, now we can do a connect to the software, and then we can also do a connect to the rig itself, turn the rig on by clicking on the power switch, and we get a display up here which is a replicate of the display that you would see on a TS590S, for instance. And also we have multi controls down here as far as settings for that particular rig. We're able to change bands by clicking on these buttons in the software. We're able to make direct entries to the frequency that we have up here. We're also able to use our mouse in the software. VNC has its own mouse that you can use to click on the various digits and increase them up or down by using the up-down arrows on the display, or just using the scroll function on the mouse. A lot of different ways to change frequency. Or we also have a tuning dial. If you like the spin dials, it's a little more cumbersome, but it works okay for tuning a little bit closer in. Or we have ways of adjusting by preset values and setting a preset on which digit we want to change, if it's in the tens, hundreds, or 1 kilohertz, and then also what the steps might be. We also have control on our RF gain, our AF gain. However, this AF gain has to do with just the your speaker volume. So if you're away from your remote location, it won't do anything. It'll just bring up the volume in the room. So we need to use some other audio program to get audio back to our remote location, which we'll discuss in a little bit. Also squelch control. We have control also of the attenuator, the pre-amplifier, and a button here if we want to turn the transmitter on and off by hand. You can do that. We also can use the Vox function, setting of AGC, and then there's a keyer in here if you want to work CW. You can bring up the keyer and use the keyboard to type in information that you want to send out by CW. So a lot of different functions. One of the menus that you can also access gives you a wide variety of settings, and that is we can set up the operator interface, change colors on the screen, either the amber or the green. We have settings for volume. So this is a multi-category as well. So if we have a selection of any one of the menu categories on the far left, it will give us a secondary menu in the middle, and then the setting values off to the right. So a wide range, and we have a menu A and B. So there's a control of the multifunction switch, programming, scanning, the transmit and filters are on here, and also audio filters are available. DSP settings as far as an equalizer is concerned. So just a whole host of different things you can do with this free software. Some of the different menu items that you will have to set up on your transceiver is the audio in and out via the USB, and this is two menu items that you can set up. Also, you need to set up the USB input gain and the USB output gain, and again those are accessible from the software through the menus. The baud rate needs to be set, and you can select either Vox operation or manual operation. If you do use the Vox, then you need to set the Vox trigger level for the proper audio levels coming in to the transceiver. The second method that I have used is to use the Ham Radio Deluxe desktop software, so we can run our HRD program right on the host from our remote location, and then view what's going on by using the VNC viewer software on the client system. So we need to install here on the host computer the VNC server and the HRD software, and configure that for operation of the TS590S. For those who may not be familiar with HRD, it stands for Ham Radio Deluxe. It's a multifunction program, actually several programs all in one suite. Information and purchase on this software is available at http://ham-radio-deluxe.com. The earlier versions through version 5 were free. Version 6 is $99.95 at the present time. There are also maintenance fees if you desire to have HRD supply online fixes on your service. However, that is not a requirement to get the full version and run the software as it is. The primary parts of HRD is centered around the radio control unit, which gives us a display of the frequency and also offers a control of many different functions. It's not quite as versatile as the ARCP 590 software supplied by the vendor. However, for most operating practices, it's very sufficient and does an excellent job. So there's some bars on here which slide back and forth, which gives you control of the frequency, both in fine steps and then in more coarse steps, and some slider bars down here which we'll take a look at, which enables you to control things like your transmitter power, being able to set the high and low cutoff frequencies on your receive. It also allows you to change modes, change bands, and also select which of the two antenna ports that you want to use that are right on the TS590S. Also, the second part of this is the logbook feature, and with the logbook it can be tied back to QRZ.com or a CD-ROM containing all of the information on the various stations, in other words, call book information, or it can connect in directly to the internet to qrz.com. I have an XML subscription, which as soon as I type in the address, it will populate the name of the person and give me information about if I've worked them before, and also from my database, and then also give me their name and information such as the bearing information and anything else you might get on qrz.com. Also with a link that you can click on to get directly to qrz.com and look at their information. So several ways of getting this call book information. You can use CD-ROM that's available with that information as well. The third part of this is the digital modes. So if you're using any of the digital modes, such as BPSK 31, 63, 125, Olivia, Contestia, the Feld-Hell method, or many other methods, it gives you the opportunity to try out some different methods, and gives you a great display of the stations. This particular one looking at some PSK 31 stations. Each one of these maroon lines on here is a different station. So you can monitor several different stations at the same time to see what's going on the bands, check propagation, and then by clicking on these you can go to the particular page that brings up the QSO that's going on, so you get all of the information, not just some of the scrolled information. A couple other modes that are available in HRD, I'm not using them at the present time, is for antenna control, for switching antennas, and also for the control of the beam that you might have. So it can change the heading of the beam depending on what station you're looking at. You can set it up to automatically go to that beam heading for that particular station as it's called up out of qrz.com or whatever call book information you're using. Another part of it is satellite tracking, so it is tied into looking at what satellites are available, and then also tuning your antennas and tracking the satellite in time so that it follows the satellite as far as your satellite antenna is concerned. Those two modes I'm not using at the present time, but they are very useful if you are using those particular modes. So just in review, HRD has the radio control, and you can also use your favorite digital programs along with this by bringing those up in addition to just the radio control, and use that. So setting it 14.070, which is the digital frequency on 20 meters. You could bring up FL Digi, or you could bring up Digipan or any of your favorite programs and still run those in conjunction with just the radio control. The logbook also has some nice features in that not only does it log your contacts, if you're in the digital modes, it can log these automatically. The only thing you have to type in or copy and paste from the QSO page would be the that is in the digital mode program, is to copy and paste the address or the call letters here for the particular station that you're working, and it automatically populates it. And then you can put in a control in one of the macros that it automatically logs it when you log off, or say 73s to the other station. This also allows you to upload your information to Logbook of the World, and also to download from the Logbook of the World by setting up your TQSL information right into HRD. It also allows you to, if you're using EQSL, to automatically upload your information after each contact into EQSL. Also, you can have some different views. You can have the lookup box right alongside of this so that it comes up with all the information for the station you're working. And it'll also allow you to filter out any particular call letters. If you're looking for a particular call letter, for instance, and you want to see if you've worked them or not, you can do that filtering on the of the database as well. So a lot of nice features. You can also start your rig control or your radio control from here. You can start your digital master, which is the digital program, the DM780, which we'll take a look at next. As I mentioned before, the DM780 is the program supplied directly for digital modes in HRD software. So each one of these lines then is a QSO, and you have a waterfall which you can look at the signal to see relative signal strengths and check for fading and that type of thing. And then in the white here at the end of each line, at the left-hand end of the line, it shows what station is linked in there and gives you that information once there's sufficient information in the scrolling text here to supply those particular call letters. And so you also have a range starting here at 14070 and going up several kilohertz depending upon what settings you might have for bandwidth on, for instance, on the TS590. You can also use the notch on the 590 if you have a really strong station kind of taking over here to notch out that station and look at signals on an adjacent frequency here. The display that we've been looking at is defined as the super sweeper, as it's looking at several different stations. Here it's blowing up a little bit so you can see kind of what the information is that's available as it scrolls past here. Once you look at the station scrolling past here, if you want to find out what the total conversation has been, you can just click on any one of those lines and it will bring up the QSO page. Here's what the QSO page looks like. This would be in the BPSK31 mode, and you can see the entire conversation here for the conversation between a couple of different stations. So here we have KB8U talking to VA7REH, and then once you have the call letters up in anywhere in here, you can do a right click with your mouse right on the call letter itself, and then there you get a little pop-up menu. You can look at the logbook information, or the call book information rather, or clicking on the secondary menu item called call sign. It will automatically populate his call down here if you have an XML description or subscription, I should say, or if you have a call book, a CD-ROM, or that type of information is available too. It will populate the also the person's name down here, and then it allows you to type in your send information as far as an RST is concerned. So there's a page down here you can either use macros on, and you can edit many different macros and come up with different information that you just click on the macros. It populates the send window down here, and then if you click on the send, or you can set up a macro to automatically send when you click on it as well. So these are some of the program options that you have available in the QSO window. One other point of information is that when you're using this radio control software, it needs a COM port, and since over the remote we don't have a real COM port connection, we need to do what's called a virtual COM port loaded on the host, and that is a free download, and you can download that from Kenwood or whatever vendor is available for your particular computer. So installing that on the host then gives you a virtual COM port and allows you to set up the client to contact on that particular port. Also, if you're using the push-to-talk, it allows you to set up a different COM port for the push-to-talk and the control system. In the DM780 setup, there are a lot of different program options which enable you to set up your sound card, your push-to-talk, and several other functions, as we'll take a look at on the next couple of slides. As you can see, you have quite a wide variety of selection here of tabs along the top of the screen that we get with our options. And we can set up our main theme to coincide with our software. We can change colors, we can manage the appearance, and several other items here, as you see from the information on the left-hand column, such as dual VFO tracking, timeout switching off, COM port for transmit. ICOM has a special built-in calibration for their S-meter, enabling or turning off the internet, some out-of-band conditions where you might get an alert as soon as you hit the band edge, and setting up the mouse wheel for a CW operation as well. Here are some other options. That is, to set up our push-to-talk, we get this particular page. And here's the COM port then that's listed here as COM3 for my particular rig. This might be different. It's a little drop-down menu that you can find out what COM port works for your push-to-talk. And again, we're using a virtual COM port at the other end for the HRD. You can also operate this off of the DM780 program by selecting the radio button for that particular type of operation. Most of the time I'm using the COM port here rather than the DM780. That way, if I don't have DM780 running, I can still control the push-to-talk on the transceiver. By selecting sound card in the left-hand column, we get up the sound card in the center to set up the input receive and the output transmit type of device. So in my case, we have the microphone as the USB, since we want to communicate with the TS590S over the USB connection. All information from our host computer is controlled then through that USB audio connection. Also, as far as the output is concerned, we are using the USB audio codec, which is a small software program that runs to interpret the USB connections between the host and the TS590 itself. Okay, so far we've looked at the first two methods. The first one was using the ARCP 590S software supplied by Kenwood, along with VNC to look at it from our remote location. The second method was to have VNC on both ends and run the HRD software on the host. And now that we have the third method, where we still have to install the HRD on the host, but we also install the HRD on the client. The VNC server is not required because HRD has built into it what's called the remote server. And so with the remote server, we run the client, the HRD software on the client, and the host computer is running the HRD software via the remote server that's installed on the client and connected again with the USB connection to our radio. Again, we need to configure the router for this remote server so that the remote server comes through a particular port and has a particular IP address. So now we'll take a look at how that works. On the server, we have our HRD software icon available, and we have it set up so that it's not running on the screen, but we have the remote server software, HRD's remote server software, running on the host itself. Now when we start up the HRD, Ham Radio Deluxe, on the client itself, it gives us a couple of opening screens. The first screen would be the one on your right, and you'll notice to select a COM port, we select the word remote, which means that we're going to connect to the remote server on the host, which couples into the software that's already there. Set up our baud rate and select whatever radio we have up here in the top of the right-hand column, and then click on the word connect, the little green arrow down below. Once we do that, it brings up the screen that's on the left, and now it enables us to connect to the HRD program on the server via the remote server. And so we need to put in the address of the host, and we need to put in the port number. There's a default in the HRD, it's 7805. So if you installed the defaults in the HRD on the host, it would be set to 7805. You put in your username and password, which is set up on the host, and then click on Connect. When you click on this Connect, it will bring up the Ham Radio Deluxe on your remote location on the client. You won't see that on the screen on the server, but it will show up on your client. So it's a little quicker, it's a little more user-friendly as far as the operation, since you are controlling the software directly on your client. Once we click on Connect, then it should bring up the normal HRD program, and we can start up the logbook, and we can start up our DM780 software as well. And those programs are linked together with something in HRD called the IP server. So that's different than the remote server. It's the local host server. Once we make a connection, the regular HRD radio control software comes up, and you get a little better view here of what the different slide bars at the bottom of the picture are. And we have AF gain, we have control of our noise blanker, we have IF shift, RF gain, the Vox gain control, words per minute for CW. We can set our power, Vox delay, break-in delays, and also the mic gain and the squelch. You can set up different slide bars on here. There's some options of doing that if there are other functions that you would like to set up down here as well. Or if you don't need all of these, it's possible to get rid of some of those. Now you're able to go ahead and run the HRD software right on your client, just as you would if you were sitting at the host computer. Just to show you what my operating position is for digital modes at the home location or the host location, I have it set up on a dual card in my Dell Inspiron computer, and it's then gives me a lot of area here where I can kind of spread things out. I've got the radio control alongside of the logbook, and then over on the opposite screen here I've got my digital modes running, so I can kind of take a look at what's going on all three of these programs at the same time. The USB cable then just runs from my host computer around the corner over to my TS590S. For CW and single sideband operation, this would be my normal operating position. And you can kind of see the layout here with the TS590S lower center. Right above that is an MFJ tuner, which I use with the Ameritron amplifier, the AL811H. However, when I'm operating remote, since I don't have really good control on the amplifier, and it needs tuning as you change frequencies, I simply put the switch on the MFJ tuner in the bypass position and just use the automatic antenna tuner in the TS590S, which I can control from the remote location. So that runs directly into my antenna then, which is the upper left. It's an MA5B Cushcraft mini beam running two elements on 20, 15, and 10, and also a rotatable dipole, which is the center element, and that's on 17 and 12 meters. So we have 5 bands on one piece of coax coming in, so it does not require any switching of the antenna as I'm going from band to band 20 meters through 10 meters. Also for CW operation, a couple of keys here. The Vibroplex ARRL 100-year key has excellent movement in it, the diamond movement, and then I also have a bencher paddle, and I have that connected into a PAL keyer, which is used with my TS430S, which sits at the top, which is my earlier rig, and also as a standby rig. I don't have that one on computer control. So then my Wi-Fi router sits behind the Yaesu rotator, and also you can see the modem, which is connected to Comcast, sitting in the upper center. So far we've been talking about digital modes and CW modes of operation, but what if I want to operate voice from the remote location? For single sideband operation, we need to add audio, which is not supported in the other software programs, and so we need to run a different program to do that. Also, for a video operation of the rig, that is a safety feature that I use to see if the rig is turning on properly as the software is telling me. I use a little video camera sitting in front of the TS590S, and that is connected back to a program called SKYPE, which you probably have used before for online communication. If I run SKYPE on my host, I can set that up for automatic calling, or answering of calls rather, and then I run SKYPE on my client, whatever piece of gear I've got, and it's a free program for audio and video. So I can bring up the camera with auto answering on the video as well and see if the rig is turning on and off properly, and it allows me to get a little better visual on what's going on at the home station. In case something gets stuck on and you lose control, that's a little safety feature there that my wife knows where the red power on-off switch is. I can call from home if she's there. Otherwise, I normally haven't operated very far from home, and the biggest use that I get out of it is sitting watching television at night and running digital modes at the same time on my laptop. So it works out pretty nice. I've also taken my tablet to the mall with me, and waiting for my wife to get her hair done. I can have a contact or two there using the tablet running the VNC software. So it's a free program for audio and video. I've also used this from my cell phone and had a couple of contacts so far on 20 meters just using the cell phone microphone through Skype, and then feeding that audio back into the computer again for getting audio in, and then the audio out as well through the same program, and it works quite well. This is what the SKYPE program would look like once you have it installed, and you have a series of contacts or your favorite contacts that you might contact on the internet. And I also use it for communication with some of the family members. I have a daughter over in, or granddaughter rather, over in Japan, and I use it every once in a while to chat with her and her husband over in Japan from my local location here. And once we have this up, then I have a different address, that is a different Skype name on my host compared to what I have on the client, so the two don't get mixed up, and I basically call myself on the other one knowing what Skype name I'm using there. Here's what the video page would look like once we made a video call on Skype. The camera sits in front of the rig, and so I can see on this particular picture that the display is off, and so when I click on the HRD software or my Kenwood software to turn it on, I can see if it actually turns on or not. And then there's a little green pilot light on there that comes on when it's receiving, and when I hit the transmit button, I can see the little red light go on, and also the display shows what the SWR might be, how much power is running, in case I forgot to set the power down on it for the digital modes, and gives me a little more peace of mind as to what's going on with the rig at the home location. Also, you notice the little blue buttons down at the bottom. The first one is video, so I'm not sending video back to the host. That would be redundant. And the next one in the middle is the microphone. And one of the things that you normally would want to do from your client is to turn that off, because if it's operating on Vox, it may turn the transmitter on from your client audio, any noise in the background. And so by turning off that audio, it mutes the audio going into the Skype system. And once you want to transmit, you can unmute it if you're using sideband and feeding audio back into the rig from this remote location. So what does my remote location look like? Well, typically I would prefer to use the laptop, and that gives me access to the rig control, logbook, digital modes through VNC server, and also using Skype would give me, as shown in the picture, is the 10-inch Lenovo tablet that I have connected via Skype back to the camera, and also gives me the audio. So quite often I'll use both of them at the same time and have the video up on the tablet and be communicating using the laptop, and this makes a nice combination. Also, I have used my cell phone as a video monitor to see what's going on, and usually that's a sufficient display in order to determine if there's any problems. Both the tablet and the cell phone are running on Android, and also running the audio and the video. If you have a Apple remote. You get the VNC server for Apple, and you can also say use an iPhone that would be running some Apple software instead of Android, and get the display and the audio in out. I found an excellent resource on the internet, and it's an excellent description of the HRD remote setup. It's by WA2EHI, and the address is on the screen. You could stop the slide and copy that down, and it gives you a PDF file about setting up the remote control in great detail, and it is a good resource for you to set that up. The thing I like about the digital modes is that it's a quiet mode. You can listen to it, but you can turn it down and have it perfectly quiet, which makes a nice environment for operation where you don't want a lot of noise around, including your bedroom if you're going to sleep. You can operate remote from any place. Well, that's about all I have for this session. I want to say 73s. Best regards. Thanks for your attention and happy remoting. From W0 Dunk Your Donuts, Gary Meyer in Shakopee, Minnesota. Hamming since 1951.